Welcome to another edition of What Barrie's Talking About from Barrie 360. I'm Dan Blakeley. On this week's program, $1 billion worth of stolen auto insurance claims last year in Ontario. Many devices you can get to point thieves to someone else's driveway, but here's a new one. Bollards. We'll learn more about them. Rescue Lake Simcoe is holding a fundraising and awareness event it calls Laugh for Lake Simcoe. We learn more about ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, as well as the work Cope Service Dogs is doing and how you can help the cause. Oh, and the Barrie Jazz and Blues Festival is back, a huge event for the city and surrounding area. We get the conversation started after this. This is What Barrie's Talking About. I'm Dan Blakeley. Heard the other day that insurance claims for stolen vehicles in Ontario, just Ontario, topped $1 billion last year. Police and governments putting together programs to try to get a handle on things. Then there's Georgian Bollards, which thinks it can help too. We're joined by Colin Fenick from Georgian Bollards. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Good, thanks for joining us. Where did the term bollards come from?
I believe it started out as a nautical term, and it has kind of evolved into what we see today with the posts in different spaces, in commercial spaces or in private spaces.
These have traditionally been used to keep people from driving onto sidewalks or onto property they ought not to be driving onto, but with all the vehicles being stolen, you found a new use for bollards.
This is true, yes, we have.
So you're getting a lot of inquiries about this?
Yeah, lots of inquiries. Lots of people are affected by auto theft or car theft. They're concerned about it with it and their families at home. We've been out knocking on doors and people in the community, and yeah, it's certainly a topic that's on people's minds.
What's involved in getting a bollard into the end of my driveway?
Yeah, it's not that difficult. We would come out, do an assessment. Essentially, we're blocking your vehicle in, right? So it's become a deterrent or, a theft prevention. Mm-hmm. Somebody would see it, and if they're going to steal a vehicle, they just find yours is too difficult to get to.
Right.
So they're going to go somewhere else. So basically, we would come in, we would core a hole in the cement or in the driveway. Then we would dig down almost 5 feet, place the bollard in, encase it in cement, and then as they're retractable, they come up and down as you need them.
So there's mechanics involved in this?
Yeah, we have automatic ones that come up with a push of a button, as well as the manual ones which you would lift up, and as you lift it up, it locks into place. And then if you want it to go down, you would unlock it, and it would just go down into, again, flush with the driveway.
So you can get this installed in a day?
Oh gosh, yes, less than half a day.
What kind of response and questions are you getting from people who are inquiring about this? What are they most concerned about as far as getting it done?
I think the biggest thing at this moment that I've noticed is really just truly awareness that it is an option for them. They've tried the clubs for the wheels, they've done wheel locks, they've done Faraday bags, and nothing really seems to be holding people back from stealing your vehicle. Where this is now an option, again, it's prevention, and you've blocked your vehicle in. You can't move the post, if you will. Yeah,
the harder you make it, the less chance somebody's going to try. Because there was a case in Barrie the other day where a pickup truck was stolen and somebody had cut through the wheel lock.
But yeah, it's happening more and more, and I'm surprised myself at how frequent auto theft happens and where it's happening.
What are the costs involved in getting this done? There's a simple solution, a little more complex solution, but what are people looking at?
For a manual bollard for a driveway, you're looking around the $2,500 mark. To go to an automatic one, it costs a little more based on distance and where it needs to go.
Right.
You could be up around the $6,000, $7,000 range, but again, everything's unique and it varies a little bit.
When you consider the cost of a vehicle these days and the inconvenience if somebody happens to come and take yours, $2,500 is not a lot to worry about.
It doesn't seem like a lot, especially once you get into, they stole your vehicle, now you've got to replace what was in the vehicle, just the hassles of it, just everything that comes with your vehicle, the intrusion of your vehicle being stolen as well, right? The feelings you get of it. It's not pleasant.
Yeah. How do people get a hold of you?
Well, they can look us up on georgianbollards.ca, or they can call us directly at my number, 705-220-5117, and we'd be happy to help.
It's not a laughing matter, but the Rescue Lake Simcoe Coalition is hoping a few laughs will help garner more support for the work they're doing as a watchdog over watersheds around the lake. Executive Director Claire Malcolmson dropped by to chat with our Ian McLennan about the work they're doing and the Laugh for Lake Simcoe fundraiser.
This one of your big fundraisers?
Yeah. So a few years ago, we set a strategic goal and ambition to do two things. One was to laugh more in hard times, because it's been hard times in Ontario for a lot of people and for the environment. And number two, more seriously, to develop some relationships with some corporate sponsors. So it's really thanks to our corporate sponsors, including the Barrie 360, Cool FM, Rock 95 combo, that are allowing us to put this show on. And basically, at this point, the more tickets we sell, the more money we make. Like, the costs are basically covered. And so we really are just trying to fill the house as much as we can.
And tell us a bit about just, for people who aren't familiar, what is Rescue Lake Simcoe Coalition?
We are a charity. We have 31 member groups around the Lake Simcoe watershed. And the watershed stretches down as far south as basically, the top of the Oak Ridges Moraine. The Oak Ridges Moraine drains on its north side into Lake Simcoe, the Holland Rivers. It goes down to Uxbridge, and then the watershed sort of wraps all around the lake. And so we're looking at the health of the lake, and we run campaigns in support of lake health.
And of course, that includes places like Orillia, Oral, Medonte, City of Barrie, and what have you.
Yeah.
Rescue Lake Simcoe. Does Lake Simcoe need rescuing?
Well, yes. I mean, really, the name was chosen about 22 years ago. The organization's now officially 20 years old. And in 2008, I think we achieved a really important goal, and that was to get legislation passed to protect Lake Simcoe. So it's the Lake Simcoe Protection Act.
Was that provincial?
Yes, it was provincial. Yep. So that was a campaign that we worked on with Environmental Defence and Ontario Nature. And the Rescue Lake Simcoe Coalition really spearheaded that initiative. And specifically Bob Eisenberg, who was one of our board directors at the time, spearheaded that initiative because we knew that the threats to the lake were substantial and that we were going to need different policies and stronger, more protective regulations in order to control some of that pollution.
And what are some of the threats today that have been ongoing, or what are new threats? So the threat that most people know about by this point, I hope, is phosphorus pollution. Right.
So phosphorus, there are a few things. So right now we're dealing with climate change, phosphorus, salt, invasive species. Those are really kind of the top ones, and I can talk a bit about all of those. But phosphorus is the thing that people probably most see, actually, although it's kind of invisible. It is a fertilizer. It's in dog poo. It's in, it comes through our sewage systems, our septic systems, from farms. And most significantly now, the biggest source of phosphorus is actually stormwater from our urban areas. So that's your lawn if you fertilize it, and that's your dog poo if you don't clean it up. And so what happens when we have too much phosphorus in the lake is that it promotes the growth of plants. It's a fertilizer. It does the same thing there as it does in a farm. And when we have excessive plant growth, first of all, you see more algae outbreaks. You see more sort of fuzz on the rocks. Some of that's natural, but it's too much. And then that stuff dies and decomposes, and that process actually removes oxygen from the water. So this should matter to people who care about fishing, because our cold water fish, like trout and whitefish, really need specific amount of oxygen at a certain time of year at a certain part of the lake. And we're really messing with that cycle. In recent years, the science has been quite strange. So this is not a good sign. I find it really alarming and frankly irresponsible for the government of Ontario to be basically framing this like this is a good news story. But the typical interaction of phosphorus with a lake like ours has been as I just described. Now that has changed. And we think that the amount of oxygen is going up, which is good. It shouldn't really be going up because the phosphorus is going up. They used to go one up, one down. Now they're both going up. We think the reason for that is that the quagga mussels, which are an invasive species, are eating up a lot of the phosphorus that's floating around in the water. It's in the water column. So that's okay, but we didn't invite the quagga mussels, and they're an invasive species, and like all invasive species, their population will boom and bust. So imagine if, 20 years from now, everyone has said, hey, we don't have a problem with phosphorus at Lake Simcoe. It's all good. Just rock and roll, everybody. Then the quagga mussel population dies. Then we don't have the mechanism anymore that removes the phosphorus from the lake. So that's actually not a bad encapsulation of the kind of thing that we do, is we sort of break down the science, explain what, in layman's terms, what's happening, but also peel back on the politics here to say, this is not a good news story. This is not a reason to relax the rules. We need to keep the limits, the caps where they are, and continue to try to work towards achieving some of those caps.
Is your coalition a checks and balances on the government sometime at not just the municipal level, but provincial and federal?
I would like to believe so. I mean, I really think that that's a lot of what we try to do. And so really what we do and the campaigns that we run are dependent on the environment, the political environment. So we got a lot done with the previous provincial government. We got the Lake Simcoe Protection Act and Plan. And then when the government changed, we know that the current government, the Doug Ford, they're not really interested in environmental protection. Like, one of the first things they did was cut the office of the Environmental Commissioner, the independent office that was able to be a watchdog for the government. So that was a pretty scary sign of what was to come. And in fact, was a sign of what was to come. They cut the Ministry of the Environment budget in half. So somebody has to be analyzing what the long-term implications of some of these moves are and making sure that people know beyond the headline or beyond the government's chosen headline, for example, what is actually happening and what the implications are. So we absolutely try to do that. I would say mostly at this point with the provincial government. On the Bradford bypass, however, it's the federal government at the moment that we're interested in talking to.
Because they're singing a different tune now on that on the bypass in terms of the environment, and I thought originally they were going to come down with a hammer.
The federal government?
Yes.
Yeah, so there are two massive highway projects in Southern Ontario that people may have heard about. We are working on fighting the Bradford bypass because it goes across the East and West Holland rivers. The East Holland River is one of 5 rivers in the Lake Simcoe watershed that chronically exceed the salt level, the acceptable salt level. And the plan is to put another salt spewing highway over top of that river. It's one of the most important rivers in the watershed. It is got a lot of fish in it. There's First Nations harvesting rights. Anyway, so at the moment, that's a Government of Ontario plan, Bradford bypass, but they're completely uninterested in what we have to say. The federal government, though, still has a bunch of permits to issue. And so what we're focusing on now is trying to make sure that the federal government does their job by reviewing the fisheries reports, for example.
The event itself, Laugh for Lake Simcoe, now that they've heard some of the issues, and there are a lot more regarding the lake, if they want more information about Rescue Lake Simcoe Coalition and the show, what's the website?
Our website is rescuelakesimcoe.org. And we have an events tab, and you can learn more about the comedians there.
Jeff McHenry, Ron Jolsol, and Fiona O'Brien. So rescuing Lake Simcoe, it's no laughing matter, but it's sink or swim for this body of water, isn't it? No pun intended.
Yes. I think we remain pretty optimistic. This lake has the best legislative protections in Ontario. We have almost enough natural cover, forests and wetlands, in order to protect the ecosystem. But we absolutely have to hold on to that and increase that amount a little bit. We have strong caps on our sewage treatment plants. As long as the Government of Ontario does not change that, we could be in a good position. It is really important for people that are working on serious issues where you see a lot of backsliding. So the environment in Ontario, we have seen 30 years of backsliding in the last 6 years. It's no laughing matter, but we're all human, right? So even if you work on like a serious issue, you have to be able to function. And for me, laughing is a huge part of that. And so we really just want to share that with people. We thought it would be really fun to have an event that was appealing to a pretty wide demographic. So whether you're in it for protecting Lake Simcoe, whether you're in it just to go out for a fun Friday night with some friends, we would really love to see more people come out and support our organization, do the really important work that we do that Lake Simcoe really needs.
Again, the website for more information about Rescue Lake Simcoe and Laugh for Lake Simcoe is rescuelakesimcoe.org. What Barrie's Talking About is a weekly podcast featuring the best Barrie and Simcoe County have to offer and more. You can get caught up and make it easy to keep up in the future by subscribing to What Barrie's Talking About through any podcast distributor. Still to come on What Barrie's Talking About, Buddy Up with Cope Service Dogs, the Walk for ALS, and the Barrie Jazz and Blues Festival returns. Now this.
It's cool to care.
It's a well-known fact blood transfusion saves lives. It's also a well-known fact that the world relies on voluntary unpaid donations to fill the need for blood. The need for blood never ends. Canadian Blood Services in Barrie is calling on you to help save a life. Please consider donating today. Appointments are mandatory and must be booked in advance. Book today at blood.ca through the Give Blood app or by calling 1-888-2-DONATE.
Cool to Care is brought to you by the Peggy Hill team. Keeping it real all the way to sold. Reach out now at peggyhill.com.
It's cool to care with 107.5 Cool FM.
This is What Barrie's Talking About from Barrie 360. I'm Dan Blakeley. A parade of pooches happening this weekend in Barrie. The annual Cope Service Dogs Buddy Up to help raise funds to support training of these dogs and the programs they support, such as Canines in the Classroom and Reading Buddies. Tracy Baker stopped by with details for our friends Dale and Charlie from Cool FM Mornings.
This is your biggest event?
This is our biggest event of the year.
And it is coming up on the 8th. I'm going to be there.
Yes, you are.
I haven't decided if I'm bringing the doodles or not, but I will be I will be there. And this is just one of those events.
You should bring your doodles, though. See how real dogs behave?
Yeah, I know. I should.
Can you learn
so they
a thing or two?
Set an example. Your dogs will set an example for my dogs.
Well, I hope so.
But, these dogs are so important. My doodles are therapeutic. My doodles are therapeutic for us, just as a family unit mentally. So I can't even imagine what an actually trained dog can do for somebody that really needs the support from them.
It is, you're right. It's so critical. And my dog is therapeutic for me as well.
Right.
But he is not a Cope Service dog. So Cope Service Dogs is an organization. We breed and train dogs for service. Mm-hmm. And it takes 2 years of training to get them ready to learn up to 90 commands.
Wow.
And they learn in many ways through puppy fosters who actually take them into their home for 2 years and then ultimately pass the leash.
Which
is
must be
not
so
easy.
hard to do. And we've been fortunate enough in the past to see some of the training that's paid off. And it's not cheap either,
It's not. It's $30,000 to train one service dog. And once they're trained, they will go to an individual who has mobility issues or perhaps other challenges, or the dog will be directed to a facility where they impact multiple lives every day because they work in, for example, hospice or child and youth advocacy. Yeah. And they do tremendous good in those organizations.
They really do.
I was able to be there firsthand because I was at the graduation, the most recent graduation ceremony for Cope Service Dogs, yes. And to see the stories of the people who were, helping to foster them, and then how the dog has changed the lives of the person whose life it came into.
Yes.
It just really opens your eyes. It
does.
Wow,
and
you don't realize it.
It's very touching. There's not a dry eye in the house at that event.
The event, which is going to be fun, and we're going to hope for fantastic weather.
Oh, fingers crossed.
Right?
Yes.
Where does it go?
It starts at St. Vincent Park, downtown on Blake Street.
Right.
And registration opens at 9:30 in the morning and runs until 10:45.
Okay.
During that hour and 15 minutes, we have jam-packed, fun-filled, family-friendly activities for people to participate in.
Say that fast 3 times.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty good.
That was pretty good.
Thank you. And at 10:45, we're going to welcome dignitaries, have a few speeches.
That'll take the fun out of it. But
Charlie will be there. Well,
I'll make it fun again.
Charlie will make it fun. You got to do what you got to do.
Stop picking on Alex, by the way, okay?
I'll try.
And at 11 o'clock, the quote-unquote ribbon will be cut and the walk will start. The dogs will lead off and it will wind its way around our downtown for about 3 kilometers. And it ends up back at the park for pizza.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we hope that everybody can come.
Yes.
We would like registration, right? But like you said, sometimes people just show up. So we've got all the details online, how you can be there, how you can fundraise, how you can just donate in case you've got something else to do that day. So Tracy, thank you so much. Looking forward to the event.
Can't wait.
For more information, to register, to buddy up, go to copedogs.org/events/buddy up. Another fundraising event this weekend to support ALS research, which is paying some dividends. Barrie 360's Ian McLennan learns more from ALS Canada's Emily Moffat. Arterial lateral sclerosis, the long name for ALS, also known as Lou Gehrig's disease. A walk is taking place on Sunday in Barrie. Tell us about it and the goals that have been set for this walk.
So this walk is really about individuals coming together to connect. So it's not only their individuals diagnosed, but their families, friends, but also individuals who have lost family members to ALS. And so it is on Sunday, June 9th at Sunnydale Park. Registration opens at 10 a.m. and the walk kicks off at 10:30.
Now, this is money raised goes towards programs and research, does it?
It does. So 60% of funds raised goes to community services. So programs where I myself can go out and visit with clients, make sure they're navigating supports, things like that. And then 40% goes towards research.
How extensive is ALS in terms of numbers? Do you know that for Barrie, Orillia, Simcoe County, or because it's an illness you hear about occasionally, but doesn't have the same billboard like other illnesses?
It's hard because there's so many individuals that are getting diagnosed and going through the process. So numbers can be very difficult, but we have realized that it's 4,000 Ontario individuals living with ALS.
And it's a disease that can be hard to diagnose too, I'm told, because it does mimic symptoms of other neurological disorders?
It is. So there is no test that can determine what ALS and where that diagnosis is. So you have to go through all the testing and to narrow down and kind of narrow out every other diagnosis possible, and then they eventually come to ALS.
And right now, it is a disease that is fatal. There is no cure at the moment. Is there progress being made though in terms of treatment or lifespan?
There is. So there are currently 2 medications available to individuals, but there's always clinical trials going on. There's always different things going on, not only in Canada, but internationally, of what can help individuals in their quality of life, and then hopefully, fingers crossed, finding a cure.
And for people that are diagnosed, what are the demographics in terms of age, and does it strike male over female? Tell us a bit about who could be susceptible.
Anybody can be susceptible to ALS. It does not depict on age. It does not depict on sex, gender, socioeconomic status. Everybody can be affected. And it's 90% of individuals, there is no family history. So is what we call sporadic or random. So that can be a lot for somebody who is diagnosed and looking for those answers, looking to find out why me and where is this coming from, and we don't have a lot of that information.
And what is the lifespan? I know it can vary. We know Stephen Hawking is an example, but generally speaking, what is the lifespan when someone is diagnosed?
So when from diagnosis, we say 2 to 5 years. Again, that can differ for a lot of individuals. Some people will not make to that 2 years, but some people surpass that 5 years. So it's very hard, but the statistics show 2 to 5 years since diagnosis.
And every disease is cruel, but this is a cruel disease in terms it doesn't rob the mind, but it's a muscle wasting disease, is it not?
It does. So individuals, it's the brain no longer being able to communicate with parts of the body. So individuals lose the ability to walk, talk, eat, swallow, and eventually breathe.
And there's a pressure, obviously, on caregivers. So what does your organization do to support those with the illness, but those that are supporting those that do have ALS?
So there's a lot of programs available, which is really great. And so with ALS Canada, we have programs such as our equipment loan program, where individuals can access equipment free of charge. There are support groups. We do webinars. We do different things going on to ensure people are connected. And on the local level, myself, such as a community lead, we connect people with other resources because we know that one organization can't do everything. So let's get the people connected with resources in their community, whether that's virtual, whether that's in person, and kind of go from there.
And a person who's diagnosed, what sort of resources do they need or equipment, eventually like a wheelchair or communicating maybe by computer? What sort of things are offered there?
So in our equipment loan program, there is over about 40 different pieces of equipment that range from bathroom aid equipment to walkers, wheelchairs, power chairs, hospital beds, lift systems. So kind of anything that someone may need down the line. And someone may not need all of these different types of devices, but what we want is for people to be able to have access when they need it. Because this disease is a very expensive disease. The average cost, if you didn't have all these programs, would be about $150,000 to $250,000 per individual. So it's a lot.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're localized here in Barrie area?
So I myself am local, but we have community leads all over the province. So anybody in Ontario has access to a community lead. They would just need to connect with ALS Canada.
I think many people were familiar with the Ice Bucket Challenge about 10 years ago. Hard to believe.
Yes.
That did put the disease on the map. People are familiar with the baseball player Lou Gehrig, and of course Lou Gehrig's disease is the term a lot of people use to identify with ALS. Is there anything in the cards that you know of that could bring that sort of awareness again?
What we're hoping is with these walks to do that. There is the Ice Bucket Challenge that we're incorporating into these walks too. Okay. So anybody that is coming out to the walks, keep an eye out around this because we are celebrating that Ice Bucket Challenge. That was a huge phenomenon for ALS and for the communities. And so we're hoping that as we continue, we want to celebrate that again.
What are some of the, for people, this disease symptoms? Because you say that we've said they do mimic other neurological disorders, but where does it usually start, or what are some of the telltale signs?
So that's not an easy question. And so everybody is so very different. So some individuals may experience symptoms in their legs with drop foot or things like that. But other individuals it might begin in their arms or maybe in their speech, in their swallowing. And so that's what makes it so hard to diagnose, is because people just are very different, and how they progress and how they show symptoms are very different, which is why people really can feel isolated with this disease, because they don't feel that they can be connected with others because it's not exactly the same. But there's a lot of similarities just in sometimes the emotions that individuals are feeling, the process that they need to go through, that their caregivers, that their family members are going through. So that's where we try and connect, but it's very difficult. It's a very difficult disease to diagnose.
And again, emphasizing the funds raised for both local supports and research. And I guess we can wrap with the University of Western Ontario just came out with a study.
Yeah.
There may be 5 years before they get to clinical trials. I mean, I'm not a scientist, so it was kind of difficult to some of it to digest. But they're talking that this has the potential to at least slow the disease, even maybe reverse it. There's research dollars, right?
Absolutely. And there's so many things going on. And so we appreciate just all this information that's coming out of Western University. And we're cautiously optimistic that we can move forward, and it does take a lot. Clinical trials can be a lot, and to get to that point. So we're cautiously optimistic that we're going to get there and that we find a cure.
Again, for more information, log on to walktoendals.ca. You like the blues, maybe some jazz? Then you're going to love the next few days in the Barrie area. The Barrie Jazz and Blues Festival begins today, June 6th. It runs through next week. We're joined by one of the organizers, Joe Finley. Joe, this is a huge event for the region.
It really is a part of the Barrie community and Simcoe County community. This is our 26th season festival that we've put on. We had a little gap in there, like all festivals, for a couple years, but we were back strong last year with some new venues and back at 5 Points Theatre downtown Barrie. And then we have an amazing Yamaha piano recital and concert series right in City Hall. And the best part of our festival has always been we're sponsor driven and the cost is always free.
And as you say, you're all over the place. So you mentioned the 5 Points Theatre and you mentioned City Hall, but you're in a lot of different clubs around the area.
We really are, and we've expanded as the years go on. Barrie, Alliston, Bradford, West Gwillimbury, Coldwater, Town of Georgina, Innisfil, Midland, Aurelia, all has great artists performing as part of Barrie Jazz and Blues Festival, but it really is much more than that.
What are the roots of blues and jazz in this area?
It's just always been, we've always had a group of people right from day one. They just love their jazz. We like to call them, they are our festival family. And we will see the same faces show up. We have a wonderful series called Out to Lunch Jazz. Every day at noon, we have Juno Award winners. We have really talented artists. And you'll see the same faces come out every day for lunch. And they just love to absorb the music. There's not a lot of in Barrie where we can get jazz. We go to Toronto for the jazz clubs, but this is once a year where we bring the music to the people.
And I bet you don't have any trouble filling the venues with artists.
No, we really don't. Artists are so excited to have a place to play, but we call them festival family. We have artists that'll be coming back for their 12th, 13th, 15th time to the Barrie Jazz and Blues Fest. And they really have it on their calendar as a performance they love to do. We do something they don't get in other venues. So instead of having them come and just perform their music, we actually give them a challenge. So we will give Matt Herskowitz Gershwin, and we'll say, we want you to put a program together of this artist. We call it Giants of Jazz. And they will spend a lot of time putting something together. And it's amazing how they'll tell us they take that and then they play at other venues. They're so excited about it.
You just get them excited about something different and they carry on with it, right?
We really do. I think all musicians love a challenge. And so we really give them a challenge of something different to work on. And then it's interesting to hear them take that. And next thing you know, they're playing it in Montreal or New York City or somewhere else because they put so much effort into learning that music that they don't really want to let it go. So
we're going to give out the website for more information and to see the list of performers, but do some name dropping for us. You already named one. Give us a few more.
Absolutely. We have returning, which many long-time festival, Bernie Sinensky Trio. Tia Brozda was amazing last year. She's returning this year to the 5 Points Theatre. We closed the show with Jack DeKaiser. Jack, people pay a lot of money to see Jack in other venues, and we offer him for no charge. And a very special Music Pro gives us, every year they donate a guitar. So we will be giving away an Epiphone Les Paul at the end of the Jack DeKaiser show. And the winner will actually receive the guitar from Jack. So it's kind of a special moment.
And maybe a little autograph involved there, perhaps?
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
Absolutely.
All right. Tell us where people can get more information, what times and dates and locations, and who's going to be there.
Absolutely. Please go to BarrieJazzBluesFest.com. You can look up Barrie Jazz and Blues Fest on Facebook, Instagram. We're really trying to push those as that's the modern way. And basically from June 6th to the 17th, If you go to the webpage, you'll be able to find all the venues and all the dates and times. And again, a reminder, everything is free, so stop in and enjoy.
If you haven't been, you want to go and experience this, and you're going to have a great, great time.
Thank you.
And that's our program for this week. Thanks to Ian, Dale, and Charlie for their input, to Matt Ladder for his technical touch, and to you for listening. If you like what you've heard, please subscribe to What Barrie's Talking About, rate it, review it. You can also keep up with What Barrie's Talking About on X at Barrie360, on our website, Barrie360.com, and there's our daily Kickstart podcast available from any streaming service and on our website. I'm Dan Blakeley. Hope you'll join us again next week.